Hello, everybody, and welcome to another NintendoFuse Game Chat. I'm your host, Barry, and today I'm joined with Greg,
Hey, how's it going, everyone?
and we're going to be talking about Xuan Yuan's sword, Mists Beyond the Mountains. This is a Chinese RPG series that is just starting to break over into America. This was originally released for the PC back in 1999, and the third game in the Xuan Yan Sword series, developed by Softstar and published by East Asia Soft. And full disclosure, codes were provided, so thank you very much for that. This is a 2D classical JRPG with like a watercolor aesthetics set in uh, Eastern or kind of like Eastern Europe to Asia, and using real world events that have happened way in the past and building an RPG around it with brand new characters, going with a lot of Eastern and Western mythologies as well. It's turn based. You play the role of a knight, and you're trying to discover what's going on. You're on a journey to China, and all the different dynasties going on. It's just a fantastical RPG setting. But first, Greg, why don't you talk your experience? What was it like for you?
It was definitely very, like as you said, like turn-based, like RPGs, like setting. So pretty much you're kind of thrust into the story, like into this tavern, and then like you're pretty much kind of given like a loose goal just to kind of go see what's going on at the local church, and then pretty much you once you try to get there, you realize that there's something more sinister going on, and then so pretty much the story just kind of unravels from there. So like you pretty much obviously go through like the obviously there'll be very few spoilers for the very part of the game, but essentially you go through the church and you discover there's like an evil like cleric inside that's trying to arrest like all these knights for being like heretics and everything. So it kind of builds off upon like that. So you come across and like put a stop to it, and then you realize that there's this is like spreading east eastwards towards China as you were describing. So you start in like Venice and things like that. So pretty much just a very like on the story part initially of my discussion here, but obviously the battles are very turn-based, traditional style, like a Dragon Quest like, and then you pretty much can get several like one to a few enemies on the screen at once, and then you can attack them and or like use like magic spells that you eventually learn and the traditional kind of things you'd expect from like a turn-based RPG type game. So initially, a lot of the battles are very simple and just usually one hit defeats the enemy right away. That part seemed like kind of easy at first, and then pretty much some of the bosses can actually like rip you apart pretty quickly. I found so I feel like there's like a I don't know if there's like a luck factor or random factor built into it, but there's times where the boss will attack and deal like 5 damage to me, and then a different attack will like do like 150 points of damage and nearly kill you. So like it's I don't know if that's like so then sometimes like you would die and have to repeat the battle, and so there's that part of it too. And I do appreciate there is like an auto save, so then like you if you forget to save or whatever, then like you can at least like lean back on that if you're in that type of situation. But overall, the game was pretty fun to play. Obviously, some of the battles didn't seem quite balanced, as I was just trying to say, because some of them are just like drop dead easy, and like you're almost already you're like almost start at a level where like the grinding part is already at that annoying level where it's like really I get stopped again after like 2 more seconds of movement, and then you like just boom, like you can auto battle it, and like it's over in seconds, and it's feels like some of the battles are somewhat pointless for a while when all the enemies just take a single hit for the most part of the game. I mean, even like I'm only like a few hours in, but I'm still like the new areas I'm still defeating the enemies in like one attack for the most part. Even just having like the most powerful weapons available at the time, because that's usually how I play RPGs. You can get new equipment and everything, and usually whenever I stop at a new spot to get new equipment, I always try to buy the most expensive one that provides the biggest increase to attack and defense and stuff like the armor and stuff too. So overall, it was a pretty fun game. I really enjoyed like the story, but um, least that I've experienced so far. And yeah, I can get some of your thoughts in.
Yeah, I agree. I think the biggest fault with this game is the difficulty balance. It definitely starts off on the very easy side, and that does increase significantly to the point where there's some random enemies that will just one shot your characters, and some bosses that do that. And I got to the final boss, and I have not been able to beat the final boss. I have hit the max level, which I believe is 50, with all the characters, and the boss just will, do like a few points of damage normally, but then we'll do a move that will pretty much one shot a character at max level, and like, but not just like one shot, like overkill. And it got to the point where like two of my characters are just constantly healing every turn, and one character is always using items every turn, and another character is whittling away, and it's just like, all right, I got everybody up, everything's good, and then like they'll do like two moves in a row and just like wipe everybody. I'm like, oh my god. So there is definitely a luck factor, and there's a little bit of a imbalance, I guess, with the boss difficulty. That being said, I think the game is fantastic, and I love the story. I love the adventure. I love the characters; they grow on you. And what's interesting is this game has a monster catching mechanic, which is, a little more popular these days. But it was really interesting to see that you could whittle away enemies and then capture them and use them in cards, and you could equip them onto your characters to make them stronger, and you could actually merge two of them together to create a brand new character, like Persona, little Persona thrown in there, and little Dragon Quest monsters thrown in there. Like, I was like, this is cool. Like, they didn't have to do this, and they did this. Um, there's a lot of depth to the game. There's a lot of hidden items. There's a lot of side quests, and some of the side quests are interesting because they're math problems or logic problems, and I thought that was kind of cool. Like, oh, the stuff learned in school actually comes into play. But the settings are great. You can't go back. That's like, as you go through this journey, there is no real backtracking. You're on a map, and you could walk around the map and go to all the different locations on that map. But once you leave it to the next area, there's no going back. With the very exception at the very end, you can go back to with the, well, previous area briefly. There's nothing really to do there, but it's just really just for a town. So you make sure you get everything you want and do everything you want in a map before you set sail to the next area, because it will be, you'll be lost. And the characters are really interesting. There's some time jumps. This game does. I don't want to spoil it, but this game does something really interesting with its story that I don't think I've seen before, at least not to this level. And this happened in '99. That I was just like, wait, what? Okay, this is what's happening now. Wait, what's going on? Like, it just took me by surprise. And when you play so many RPGs, and an RPG can take you by surprise, to me, that's a good thing. that is a that is a good thing. That is a fun thing. So for that alone, I think it's worth playing just to see what I'm talking about. But how far would you say you got overall, Greg?
I mean, I'm only a few hours in, and I had just left like the initial area. Then I was just like an, I guess part of a spoiler, but like an island kind of comes out from below, and it like makes your ship like be locked to the land because like the island just came out of nowhere. But um, yeah,
So you're on
I
the
went and yeah, I went through and explored and already like got miles and stuff like the cutscene there, and then like we find out like the um, girl that you've been with has passed away, and that was around the point where I had stopped playing at that point. But um, yeah, is a part of it where like it doesn't always thoroughly explain where you're going, and I did want to like, have that pointed out like in the very initial spot. I mean, it would kind of say initially like, oh, like, go to the temple, go to the monastery, to go here, and then oh, now you have to go into the caves to do this. But then like after I had finished that, then it didn't really tell me I was supposed to go back to the ship, and then all of a sudden like, oh, turns out we have to go track down these other two guys that said there was food somewhere else, and then, like it took a while to figure out where I was supposed to go initially because it like it still used to spoon feeding me to say like go here,
yeah.
here, here, and then all of a sudden he doesn't like, well, where do I go now? and then I spent a good like 20 minutes wandering the map and see if there was like any hidden locations that I didn't find, and then I had like even had messaged you saying like I found like this place, but it's not letting me inside, so I don't know if like that's something I needed to like even do that, or if it's just by design to not even, ever let you in there. I don't know, but now I can't really go back and figure that out unless I start anew. But yeah, does a pretty good job at like telling you where to go, but then there's points where you feel like, well, where what do I do next? And then that's where it doesn't tell you where to go next, and that's part of the frustrating part of it. But um, yeah, I did like some of the side quests. I do find that some of them were random, like logic puzzles. Like you read like a gravestone, and then it tells you like, oh, like I can go into the temple and get your treasure after you solve the puzzle. And like it was kind of pretty cryptic like that too. And that stuff is pretty fun to go see. And but like there's unfortunately a lot of the puzzles are could just be like kind of Googled and not necessarily really tied into the game in any way. So it's that part. It seems like it's kind of like they just pulled a random riddle off the internet and pasted it to the game, and then you have to like solve it just to do that. And then pretty much the game doesn't even give you any inklings on like the answer to the puzzle because there's not like a character that gives you the answer or something like an NPC or something like that. But um, so those seem kind of off the wall and still pretty enjoyable to solve, especially if like you're able to like work it out logically. But other things like just Google is your best friend in those situations if those are that very hard to solve.
Yeah, with those riddles and stuff, at least it's side content. And like you said, if you get stuck, Google it. Oh, you'll get the answer. The maps, I'm one of those people where if the RPG says you need to go to the town to the right, I'm gonna go everywhere else in the map before I go to the town to the right. And that's what I did. I would every map I would go every other place and then go. And I found a lot of places doing that where it was like closed off and I can't do it. And then as the story progressed, it was like, oh, they went to this cave to look for food, and I was like, oh, I've been to that cave. I know exactly where it is. And I go there and the door's open now. I'm like, okay. Um, I did find most places. I think every place I went to was used except for the one. It was in the first area and it was to the very north. And if that's the one you were talking about,
Yeah, it
yeah, so
was.
you
Yeah,
can't that was done for story purposes because that is not spoiler, but it is a gate that is blocked off and is blocked off because of political reasons and it's part of the story. And it's just to say the gate's there, it's blocked off, you never go past it. So there's nothing there. At least I didn't discover anything there. I think it's just there for world building. But everywhere else you do actually go, and there's multiple different maps as you go. You go to like the desert, you go to Egypt as you go to the Middle East, and you head towards China, you go to the highlands and stuff, in Asia, and there's a lot of really beautiful varied locations. And the characters like they don't pull punches. Like this is an adult game. Like you mentioned a death. There are that. There's a lot of gothic themes too. At one point, you actually go to hell. The game takes you to hell, and you have to explore hell. Um, like there's a lot of different aspects in that, rooted in mythology, and I liked it. I liked it a lot. I liked what they did with it. But I will say, because it is I say older. It's 1999. I was in high school, older. RPG. The guides will be your best friend if you get stuck. There are guides out there, but I don't think it was terribly difficult in that regards. Now, if you want to get every single item, then a guide is going to be your friend because there's a lot of hidden items and a lot of different things to do. But overall, I didn't find where to go to be too difficult. I found the dungeons pretty fun. I found them pretty straightforward. Even when they were a little confusing, like, oh, we can go left, right, I never found it to be getting lost because it always circled back around, I felt. Cast of characters is great. Your party members are great. You got assistants in addition to your party members. Sometimes you get assistants which won't exactly fight with you, but they'll come in and do an assist attack, which is nice way to get some extra people in your party. It is normally $14.99. As of right now, the sale ends on the 29th, so just in a few days. It's 10% off at $13.49. but let's assume it's full price 14.99. According to How Long to Beat, by the way, just want to put it out there. They say 30 hours. I can contest that I've spent probably around that time getting to the end of the game and enjoyed myself. So, Greg, knowing this, no, you're definitely an RPG lover like myself. $15 on sale, 13.49. Would you recommend this now? Wait for a sale. What are your thoughts?
To be honest, I'm thinking it's straight up to be worth it. I mean, that's a good amount of gaming for like that kind of price. So for people that love JRPGs, this will be right up your alley. The story is a lot of fun. Obviously, there's some things that are a little bit cryptic, but I mean, there are guides if you really are hit that level of frustration. So it's um, definitely makes it a worthwhile experience in my eyes. I mean, I understand that there's a few things like some of the even like the difficulty balancing is not quite ideal, but I mean, a lot of that stuff just can be worked through. And really, I mean, trial and error has always been a part of RPGs and to begin with. You kind of figure out like what works and what doesn't. So that's why I would still stand by that it would be worth the value of it. Um, I did want to point out that my experience did include a few random errors that just shut the game down, but I don't know if they're going to be able to patch those out or whatever. But obviously, that's never ideal to have your game just suddenly close, especially if you don't save. And that's also where I said the autosave part is very thankful in those regards because that's beyond your control, like when that situation happens. But um, ideally, I think it's worth the price, and obviously, any sale price you get is makes it even better because it's such a great game.
Yeah, I'll quickly echo. I did have a lot of crashes, and I did warn Greg before you played it about them too. So save often, definitely save often. I hope that East Asia Soft patches this. It feels like it's probably something like a semicolon missing somewhere, because it shouldn't crash that often, but it doesn't deter from the game because it boots right back up. Um, and it's just a constant thing. So hopefully they patch it. It might even be patched by the time you're watching this, but it was not patched when we played it. But yeah, I'm gonna echo that. I think it's worth it at $15 easily. I knew about this series. I was happy to see it finally coming to the West, and when I had the chance to review this, I jumped at it. Um, I fell in love with this game. I fell in love with the world. I fell in love with the characters. I think it's done really well, and I look forward to more games in the series for sure. Hitting our shores. $15 is a steal. For 30 hours, 30 plus hours, depending. Uh, and especially if it's on sale. So I definitely highly recommend it right now. I do want to once again thank East Asia Soft for providing us both review codes for this game. And if you like JRPGs, I do hope you check it out. But Greg, thank you so much for joining me today.
No problem. It was a great game to discuss here.
Agreed. And for all other great games that we've discussed, check out our other Nintendo Fuse game chats on our YouTube page. You could also go to nintendofuse.com, or you could also check out our podcast that we do on our YouTube, youtube.com/NintendoFuse, game news, and a bunch of other stuff. Keep it here, and we'll see you next time. And have a good one, everyone.
Take care.